All right, let's jump into this deep dive. We're going deep into David Goggins' autobiography. Can't hurt me. It's pretty intense, and we're going to unpack a lot here. Like, what's his whole philosophy about pushing limits? How to use it in his own life? And, what can we all take away from it for ourselves?
Well, I think one of the most fascinating things about Goggins is like this core belief he has. He says motivation, it's temporary,
Yeah.
right? Real change means you got to rewire your brain. And how do you do that? You embrace being uncomfortable. And his life, man, it's like the ultimate example of that.
Yeah, and he starts his story with a pretty crazy contrast.
Yeah.
He describes his childhood neighborhood, this place called Williamsville in Buffalo. Like, he says it was idyllic, which, I mean, that makes what was going on at home even more, like, jarring.
Yeah. Total hidden world of abuse. It's wild. They ran this place, Skateland. It was like their family business.
Hmm.
Super popular spot, too. From the outside, it was all flashing lights and music. Think like Rick James, Funkadelic. But for Goggins, it was pure fear and control.
It's hard to even imagine. Like, behind this fun facade, he's dealing with his dad's control, his mom's totally dependent on him financially. He even had a loaded gun under his bed as a kid. It's intense. And I mean, it makes his mom finally escaping even more powerful.
Absolutely. Imagine this, right? Their car breaks down while they're escaping. They end up hiding in like a Holiday Inn conference room. Can you imagine the fear, the uncertainty?
Totally. And the trauma from his childhood, it obviously had a lasting impact. He talks about struggling in school, being misdiagnosed with ADHD, needing speech therapy. And then there's this terrifying racist encounter he had with some teenagers in Brazil, Indiana.
Yeah, that encounter, man. I mean, one of those teenagers pointed a gun at him.
Yeah.
It just shows you how deep those experiences, they shape how you see the world. It makes you wonder how he managed to not just survive it all, but like actually thrive.
That's a good point. And that kind of brings us to this pivotal moment in his life, the accountability mirror. He shaves his head, looks in the mirror, and just has this brutally honest conversation with himself.
It's more than just a pep talk, though. It's like he's acknowledging his own role in his struggles. He's making a conscious decision to, like, take control. It's almost like he's saying, look, I'm done being a victim. I'm owning my part, and I'm changing my story.
And he takes this idea of using his past pain, and he calls it his bad hand. He actually turns what could have totally broken him into motivation. Is that something, do you think that's something we can all learn from? I mean, we all have those bad hands in some way.
Totally. Goggins' story is like this powerful reminder that we choose how we respond to our past. I mean, instead of letting it define us, we can use it to fuel our growth. It's all about how you look at it and finding that strength in those hard times.
But, his path forward wasn't exactly easy. He talks about the death of his would-be stepfather, Wilmoth, which left him with so much anger and, like, unanswered questions.
Wilmoth represented hope,
Right.
like a chance at a stable family life. To have that taken away, an unsolved murder, no less, it's devastating. And this happens when Goggins is already struggling in school, even though he's like a natural athlete.
Yeah, he talks about feeling like a total imposter. Like, he even joins the Air Force, but ends up disillusioned, working as an exterminator, gaining all this weight. It feels like a turning point,
Yeah.
rock bottom kind of moment.
Right. And then he sees this documentary. It was about Navy SEALs. And that sparked a huge shift. He's watching these guys go through like unimaginable suffering, pushing themselves to the absolute limit. And what's he feel? Jealousy.
Jealousy, right? It's like counterintuitive, isn't it? But the way he explains it, it makes sense. It's not like he wants their pain. It's more like he sees this desire for something more in himself. Like, he wants to test his own limits.
Yeah.
See what he's truly capable of.
Yeah. It's like he's been sleepwalking. And then, bam, he wakes up and realizes, whoa, I can do so much more. And that's when he decides, I'm going all in. I'm becoming a SEAL.
But there's this massive hurdle. He has to lose, get this, over 106 pounds in less than 3 months to even qualify. And he's still working as an exterminator, studying for the ASVABs, and basically training like a maniac.
That's where the whole Rocky thing comes in. That iconic scene, Rocky gets knocked down, but he keeps getting back up. Goggins uses that to push through the exhaustion, the pain of losing all that weight.
It's interesting how he uses these external things for motivation. It makes me think, like, what would my Rocky scene be? What could I use to, fuel my own efforts?
That's a great point. What Goggins teaches us, it's that we don't have to go it alone. We can draw strength from inspiring stories, mentors, even fictional characters. It's finding what works for you.
So he loses the weight, passes the ASVABs, gets accepted into SEAL training. But then another challenge pops up. His marriage.
Yeah, things were already rocky, pun intended. And he's got to make a choice. Stay in a relationship that's not working or go after his dream. It's tough, but he chooses the dream.
He gets divorced and heads to BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training.
Which is, notoriously brutal, medieval, intense, designed to push you beyond your limits. And then there's Hell Week, the culmination of all that training.
He talks about Hell Week, instructors with names like Psycho Pete and Freak Brown, constant physical and mental challenges, sleep deprivation. Brutal.
The point is to break you down, strip away any pretense. It reveals your true character. And Goggins, despite his fears, he embraces it. He starts to develop what he calls a calloused mind.
A calloused mind?
Yeah.
What does that even mean?
He's talking about building resilience through pain, Adversity. He's not saying go look for pain, but it's an inevitable part of life, especially when you're pushing your limits. And instead of running from it, he learns to use it.
He talks about almost drowning, his fear of water, overcoming it by sheer willpower. He pushes through stress fractures, and then there's this insane incident where he has to tie knots underwater while someone's holding him down. Crazy.
That's mental toughness right there. He compartmentalizes the pain, focuses on the task, and finds a way to persevere. Makes you wonder how much of this is mindset, how much is just pure grit.
Right. And he gets through Hell Week, but then, bam, major setback. His knee's messed up. Got to be rolled back to a later class.
Crushing, right. He's questioning everything. Should he even stay with the SEALs? But then there's this moment, train bathroom mirror. He remembers everything he's overcome, and he realizes, I can't quit.
That's where the visualization comes in. He spends months picturing himself succeeding, preparing his mind for those upcoming challenges. It's not just his body, it's his mind too.
And this is when he comes up with the 40% rule, the idea that we're only using 40% of our potential. He believes we have so much more to give physically and mentally, and that's what drives him.
And what better way to prove that theory than to sign up for his first ultramarathon, the San Diego One Day, a 100-mile race.
With barely any training, he just decides to run 100 miles. He hits the wall. His body starts to break down. He even gets kidney failure. Brutal.
But he keeps going, right? He doesn't quit. He uses what he calls his cookie jar.
Exactly. It's all those past experiences where he overcame adversity. They're like fuel, reminding him he can push through pain and do those seemingly impossible things.
So the cookie jar is like this mental store of resilience, right? He can tap into it when things get rough. Powerful concept. How do you think we build our own cookie jars?
It's acknowledging those tough experiences and reframing them, seeing them as growth, not setbacks. Every challenge you overcome, every obstacle you face, that's another cookie.
He finishes that race, proving to himself that he can do way more than he thought. And that sets him up for an even bigger challenge. Badwater 135.
One of the toughest foot races in the world. Death Valley, July. The hottest place on Earth. 135 miles of insane heat, elevation changes, mental fortitude.
So he contacts the race director, Chris Kostman, and Kostman's like, I don't know if you can handle this.
Right. Kostman tells him, run another 100-miler and get back to me. So Goggins runs the Vermont 100, freezing temperatures, crazy terrain. He even hallucinates at one point.
But he finishes. Proves to Kostman he's serious. Gets into Badwater, starts training like crazy, pushing his limits, running in insane heat, carrying heavy packs. He's basically simulating the race.
And he's using those visualization techniques,
Yeah.
Picturing himself conquering the course, another key part of his philosophy. The power of your mind.
Race day arrives. Starts strong. But man, the race takes a toll. Blisters, dehydration, relentless Death Valley heat. He falls behind. Other runners, including his rival, Akos.
But he keeps pushing, digs deep, cookie jar time, those past experiences, and that's where his mental toughness really shows.
Runs through the night, catches up to other runners. He even sees Carl Meltzer, the legendary ultra runner, speed goat, effortlessly pass him. Both inspiring and intimidating at the same time.
Powerful moment, right? Even Goggins has people he looks up to who push him. There's always another level, room for growth.
He finishes Badwater, proves the 40% rule. Incredible feat of endurance.
But it's not just about being a Navy SEAL or an ultramarathoner. It's about that mental toughness in anything you do, career, relationships, goals. It's about conquering those voices that say quit, settle, stay comfortable. It's embracing discomfort and knowing that, on the other side, growth and a whole new level of potential.
Inspiring stuff. But it also makes you wonder, how much of this can the average person actually do? Can we all tap into that 40% like Goggins? What does that even look like in our own lives?
Great question. It's definitely worth exploring. In the next part of our deep dive, we'll look at his SEAL experiences, the challenges, and how he kept pushing even after achieving, what many would consider the peak of human endurance. Stay tuned.
So we left off with Goggins conquering Badwater 135. You'd think that'd be enough, right? But nope, not for Goggins.
Always got to have that next challenge, right? So he sets his sights on Ultraman, the World Championships in Hawaii. 3-day, 320-mile race. I mean, we're talking a 6.2-mile swim, 261-mile bike ride, and then a 52.4-mile double marathon run.
It's insane. And he was still a SEAL, right? How do you even find the time to train?
He made it part of his life. Running to work with heavy packs, swimming for miles, cycling for hours is like pushing boundaries, even with a crazy job. That was his thing.
Yeah, his Ultraman experience, it's all about resilience, So many setbacks.
Oh, yeah, tons. Like his wetsuit was too tight during the swim, terrible chafing, got seasick, had to stop over and over. Then the cycling leg, he was killing it, passing the leader even. And then, bam, his front tire blows out.
He crashed.
Went flying over the handlebars, landed hard, cuts, bruises, bike's messed up, looked like it was over.
But come on, this is Goggins. He kept going, right?
Of course he did. His crew helped him, they fixed the bike, and he was back on the road. Finished the cycling leg, even with a messed up shoulder and road rash everywhere.
Makes you wonder, what's going on in his head at that point? Most people would quit. Right.
He talks about the cookie jar, right? All those past experiences. They're fuel.
Yeah.
He's trained his mind to see those setbacks as, temporary, just another obstacle.
So he makes it through the swim, the bike ride, and now he's facing a double marathon. Already exhausted, injured.
Keeps a steady pace, one step at a time. Mental toughness, pushing through the pain. Finishes Ultraman, another insane achievement.
But it's not just about finishing, is it? With Goggins, it always feels like it's deeper than that.
It's proving to himself, I think, that he can overcome anything. It's that constant drive to be better. It makes you think, are we setting our own limits too low? What are we capable of?
It definitely challenges your perspective.
Yeah.
So all this time, he's still a SEAL. What was that experience like, actually being on the teams?
He actually talks about being kind of let down by the day-to-day. He wanted more of those intense challenges, those opportunities to really push himself.
So even after all that, achieving what most people would consider, peak human performance, he still wanted more.
Right. He even says he was disappointed by, the lack of drive in some of the other SEALs. They were content to just coast Goggins. He always wanted more, to be the best.
It's like he has this internal motor that just won't stop. What do you do next?
He set his sights on SEAL Team 6, the most elite unit, high-stakes missions.
Tip of the spear?
Yep. Train harder, pushed his limits further, studied tactics, volunteered for the toughest stuff, and all this while dealing with a pretty serious health problem.
The hole in his heart, right?
Yeah, atrial septal defect. It was affecting his blood flow, his oxygen levels, explained a lot of the fatigue he'd been feeling, the breathing problems. You'd think that'd be it for the ultra-endurance stuff.
So those people, yeah. But not Goggins.
Nope. He refused to let it stop him. The Navy said, scale back, but he wouldn't hear it. Kept training, even with the risks, determined to prove he could still push despite this new obstacle.
He's like superhuman or something. So did he make it into SEAL Team 6?
He got approved to screen for it, but then another opportunity popped up, Army Ranger School.
Wait, he was a SEAL. Why go to Ranger School?
It's considered one of the toughest leadership courses out there. Goggins saw it as another chance to hone his skills, to test himself, and he crushed it. Earned the Enlisted Honor Man Award, too.
More proof of his dedication and resilience. Graduates Ranger School, back to the SEAL teams, and then what?
Delta Force.
Yep, Delta Force. The Army's version of SEAL Team 6. Counterterrorism. The best of the best. Goggins wanted to be among them.
Delta selection is, intense, right? Physically and mentally, how'd he do?
Did great, actually. Aced the physical challenges, showed off his navigation skills, but then during one of the land navigation exercises, he made a mistake, got lost.
Lost. How does someone with his training get lost?
He misjudged the terrain,
Okay.
ended up on the wrong ridge, lost a bunch of time, heartbreaking. And ultimately, that's why they dropped him from the selection process.
After all that, he's defeated by getting lost. Wow. How did he handle it?
He was crushed, but he didn't dwell on it. He analyzed what happened, identified his mistakes, and started planning his next move. Classic Goggins. Even in failure, a lesson, a chance to grow. He's wired differently, that's for sure.
Growth mindset, all the way. So what's next? Breaking the world record for pull-ups.
Pull-ups? Seems kind of different from ultramarathons and special forces.
It was But he wasn't doing it just for himself. He wanted to raise money for the Special Operations Warrior Foundation,
Hmm.
a charity that helps families of fallen special operators.
So self-improvement with a purpose. That's awesome. Tell me about his first attempt.
He trained like crazy, even scheduled to be on the Today Show, raise awareness for the foundation and his record attempt. But the Navy pulled him from the show.
What happened?
Concerns about a book that had just come out about the Bin Laden raid. Timing wasn't right. The Navy didn't want Goggins caught up in the
He
controversy.
lost a huge platform. Frustrating.
Yeah, and the whole thing kind of messed with his head. He attempted the record and he fell short.
He failed. What went wrong?
He said he wasn't meticulous enough with his prep, didn't respect the record, and it cost him. But Goggins being Goggins, he didn't give up.
Of course not. So what do you do?
Analyzed his mistakes. After action report, he calls it AAR. Figure out what to improve, refocused, set a new date.
It's amazing how he takes those setbacks and turns them into opportunities.
Self-aware and dedicated. Second attempt. Prepped meticulously. Eliminated distractions, visualized success, honed his technique, and he crushed it. Shattered the world record. 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours.
That's just wow. Hard to wrap your head around it. But even after that, he doesn't stop pushing. He tries to run a 200-mile race, freezing temperatures, crazy pain.
He ends up dropping out injured. But even then, that commitment to pushing boundaries, Goggins embodies this idea that human potential, it's limitless. We're capable of so much more.
But he's also clear it takes work. Discipline, mental toughness. He's not saying it's easy, but that it's possible. If you embrace the discomfort and push past those self-imposed limits.
It's all about growth, right? Challenging yourself, stepping
Mhm.
outside that comfort zone, seeing what you can really do. It's the journey, the setbacks, the wins, they all fuel your evolution.
Powerful stuff. So, in the next part of our deep dive, let's talk about what this means for us. The average person, not trying to be a SEAL or break a world record. What can we learn? How do we apply this philosophy? Stay tuned. All right, so we spent a lot of time with David Goggins and his book Can't Hurt Me. We've talked about his crazy childhood, the ultra marathons, the special forces training. This guy is constantly pushing himself way beyond what most of us can even imagine.
Yeah, and as we've seen, it's not just about being physically strong, it's that mental toughness, the ability to push through pain, adversity. That's what makes him so unique. But I think in this last part of our deep dive, it's worth highlighting something Goggins talks a lot about towards the end of his book. Starting at zero.
So it doesn't matter what you've achieved, how impressive your accomplishments are, you can't get complacent.
Right. He says it doesn't matter if you've graduated BUDS, run Badwater, or broken a world record. You can't just rest on your laurels. Life keeps moving. You're either getting better or getting worse. Always another level, another challenge, another weakness to work on.
And he really lives that, doesn't he? Even after everything he's done, he's still finding ways to push himself, to find that edge. He even talks about discovering a whole new level of potential through stretching.
It's kind of ironic, right? The guy who's all about brute strength and pushing through pain discovers the power of flexibility. Says a lot about his commitment to growth.
Yeah, he talks about spending hours stretching, like sometimes up to 12 hours a day, and how it not only helped him physically, but also mentally. Like he found this missing piece.
Highlights the importance of being open, to new things. Even when you think you've got it figured out, growth never stops. It's about learning, challenging what you think you know, being able to adapt.
Powerful stuff. It's so easy to fall into routines, get comfortable, think we've reached our peak. Goggins reminds us there's always more, always room to get better, even in areas we think we've mastered.
It's the growth mindset, that constant drive to improve, no matter where you are in life. Embrace the journey, the ups and downs, knowing those setbacks. They're chances to learn and grow.
So what does all of this mean for us, us listening? What can we take away from Goggins' crazy journey? How do we apply it to our own lives?
A few key things, I think. First, mindset. Goggins shows how what you believe about yourself, what you think you're capable of, it impacts everything you do, the results you get. Believe you're limited, you'll act that way. But believe you have more to give, a whole new world of possibility.
It's about challenging those limitations, right? The voices saying, you can't do that.
Exactly. And the second thing, embrace being uncomfortable. That's Goggins' whole thing. Seek it out, push through the pain, use it to grow. Real change, it happens outside your comfort zone. When you struggle, when you push beyond what you thought you could handle, that's when you discover what you're truly made of.
Callousing the mind, he calls it, right? building up that resilience by facing challenges head on. It's not about liking pain, it's about understanding that discomfort. It usually means you're growing.
Right. And finally, I think it comes down to action. Goggins doesn't just talk about this stuff, he lives it. He sets these crazy goals and then goes after them relentlessly. He puts in the work, the discipline, the mental toughness.
Walks the walk.
Exactly. It's not enough to just understand it, you got to apply it. Take action. Step outside your comfort zone. Put in the effort.
Goggins' story, it's a call to action. It's a challenge to each of us to look at our own lives, figure out where we're holding ourselves back, and start pushing past those limits. Find our own cookie jars, draw on those tough experiences, use them to fuel what we do next.
It's not about being a SEAL, he says. It's about tapping into that 40% in whatever area of life matters to you. Career, relationships, your health, personal growth. You can always improve.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Can't Hurt Me, I want to leave you with a question. What's your next challenge? What's that thing you've been putting off, that goal you keep telling yourself is impossible? What if you embraced the discomfort, calloused your mind, and started taking action, one step at a time?
Think about it. And remember, like Goggins says, it's not about being a SEAL. It's about finding that 40% in whatever matters to you. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time.